You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean. Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ at the Movies.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another AFTERBUZZ after movie for Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm your host, John Comerford, and I'm joined on the panel by the highly esteemed film critic, Access Hollywood's Scott Movie Mantz.
Woo-hoo! Great to be here talking about my two favorite things, Star Trek and movies in that order.
There you go. Also joining us is fanboy trekker and film aficionado, Demetri, Panos.
Thank you. Hello. How are
Gentlemen,
you?
we have so much to cover. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to do in a short amount of time. So, not the least of which is whether or not Into Darkness fulfilled the high expectations of this storied franchise, where it ranks amongst the Star Trek canon. But first off, I'd like your overall impressions, thoughts. What have you to say, Demetri? I put it to you.
Star Trek Into Darkness for me, highly anticipated after the 2009 movie. And the 2009 movie did something I thought that was fantastic. J.J. Abrams basically built his own sandbox, and he used Gene Roddenberry's sand to play around with. And he did this great job, which allows him to do his own stories, while at the same time they can mirror classic stories that we're used to.
Mirror.
There you go. And and so coming Into Darkness, number one, it opened up. I was on vacation in Hawaii. The girlfriend would not. She goes, "We're not going to see a movie while we're on vacation in Hawaii." No, absolutely not. But as soon as we got back, we saw it in IMAX 3D. And you know what? With everything that it set out to do, I think it accomplished it. I think it hit all the right buttons. Listen, since the movie's been out since May, so we know that Khan is in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought the way that this character of Khan was introduced, I thought it was very well done. They did such an amazing job. We could talk about this later.
Yes.
Hiding that fact.
Yeah.
But I thought that Benedict Cumberbatch did a really good job. You don't want to be Ricardo Montalban. You can't be Ricardo Montalban. No. He did a really good job. Yeah. They set up a really good villain, a good story to bring it forward. The whole wraparound with this is, hey, we're up for the 5-year mission. I love that part of the
setup there. Yeah,
they set everything up. So the movie really set up the pins, knocked them down, and now we're ready for the next.
Movie Mantz, I go to you.
Star Trek Into Darkness, did it live up to my expectations? Yes and no. As a movie, it did. As a Star Trek fan, I thought it fell short. What the 2009 movie did, like you said, it reset the stage. They were able to do their own thing by creating this alternate timeline in the 2009 movie. They wiped the slate clean, freeing them from this whole canon. They could now do whatever they wanted. J.J. Abrams, the writers, the cast, the great cast, and loving Star Trek ever since I was 6 back in 1974. Do the math, and knowing Shatner, Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley as Kirk, Spock, and McCoy ingrained in my brain, and the way Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto and Carl Urban made those roles their own. And the movie was fresh, fun. It was cool. It was sexy. Not a word I would ever use for Star Trek. So the question is, while Star Trek Into Darkness was a bigger film in terms of its scope and special effects, was it a better movie? And I don't think it was. I thought by trying to upstage the action, it lost the magic that made the first film so great. The characters didn't have as much of a chance to shine. And after really making an alternate timeline part of the story to do their own thing, why do Khan again? No matter how you cut it, it is not going to top the 1982 classic masterpiece that is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And here's why. And I know I could go on forever about this. I'll keep this short. Here's why, okay? 1967, you had the episode Spacey, which introduced Khan. Khan tries to take over the Enterprise. Kirk says, that ain't going to happen. He banishes the crew at the Botany Bay to SETI Alpha 5, goes on his way. SETI Alpha 6 explodes. Half of Khan's people die, including his wife. Khan is so hateful and has so much hatred for Kirk that when he finally steals the Reliant and goes after the Enterprise, it's Moby Dick in space.
Sure.
Khan is Ahab, the Enterprise is the whale. So when they see each other on the view screen from the Reliant and the Enterprise, you know, Khan is like, you know, you still remember, Admiral. And Kirk is like, what are you doing? I mean, I'll beam over, spare my crew. But there's that history, that deep history, that personal history, and you've got the same actors playing the characters, which was great. So in the reboot, in this new universe, in Star Trek Into Darkness, when Benedict Cumberbatch reveals himself, not as John Harrison, but that he's Khan, who cares? What does Kirk care?
Yeah, there's no history.
There's no history. He could have been called Ringo, and it wouldn't have made a difference to Kirk. What I liked about the relationship between Kirk and Khan in Star Trek Into Darkness is that for a little while, you really don't know whose side Khan is on. I love that bit.
Sure.
But when Scotty and Kirk are working side by side with Khan, and Scotty says, "Well, he's helping us," and Kirk goes, "No, I think we're helping him."
I think we're helping him.
You know,
No.
I love that relationship. And just like with the 2009 movie, I thought Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto were terrific. I felt like Uhura and Sulu and Chekhov didn't have as much of a chance to shine. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch did a fine job of making Khan his own. And I thought that on its own, it worked. I thought that as a film for Star Trek people who didn't even like Star Trek before, it worked great. But for the fans, I thought that it fell a little short.
Yeah, and again, I had no problem with the Khan. I mean, you make up a great point, but being that this is a different movie, didn't need the history. You're right. He could have been called Ringo, you know, and that's fine. But there's no need. You know, a lot of people are saying maybe they played the Khan card too early in the series. It's like, nah, whatever. It's like he's the villain. They built him up to be a different kind of a villain. He's not out for revenge against Kirk. He's out for revenge against Starfleet. What they've done.
Right.
It's a bigger story in that regards. You know, and people have said the same thing too about, like, you know, with some of the subsidiary characters. One complaint has been, you know, not enough strong female characters, and I'm like,
true.
well, but it was always Eldana who saved the day. If she didn't beam down on that thing to help Spock, that movie would have been, you know, he would have been dead.
But that was the end of the film.
No, but she was also there. I mean, she was the person who, like, there was great dialogue between her and Spock, especially in the shuttle when they're going to the Klingon planet over there.
Yeah.
That they had some, like, great, and, like, Kirk's like, don't get me involved in this, but you know what? As a matter of fact, no, you are a jerk, Spock.
Yeah, that was great. That was fun.
It's great stuff. And then, you know, Zoe Saldana had her scenes where, you know, listen, she's the communications officer, and she is the one that elects, I'm going to go out and try to talk to the Klingons too. So, I don't know. I thought that the way, you know, she had her moments.
Yeah, but that's it. They're just moments. I mean, let's face it, in 2009, there was much more there to deal with.
The 2009 movie was brilliant. The way it was a perfect reboot. It was a Star Trek movie for people who don't like Star Trek movies. I can't tell you how many times in the last 4 years people would say to me, or they would say, you know, I don't really like Star Trek, but that last movie was great. I went to my high school reunion in Philadelphia in Thanksgiving of 2011, and everybody—
Do the math again.
Everybody, do the math again, okay? Graduated high school in '86. And, you know, these people knew me as the geek who loves Star Trek.
Sure.
And I can't tell you how many times this one guy, his name's Todd Capriati, comes up to me, big guy, picked on me a lot. I hope he's listening. And he says to me, Scott, you know, I know I used to pick on you for being a Trekkie and all that, but that last movie was great. And I said, welcome aboard, Captain. I mean, that was such a feeling of vindication, of redemption, that they made this movie for everyone, and that was their plan. JJ, Bad Robot, Paramount.
So then I got to ask the question, because obviously for 2009 was the reboot. So here you go, and I had the same issue you did with the fact that you're in a parallel universe or dimension or whatever you want to call it. So you could do any story. So why would you pick one that's already done? And on one hand, I thought, well, that's a really bad idea. On the other hand, well, part of it's really fun, but I just went, you could do anything now. You wiped the slate clean for reason.
But
why
these
would
people,
you do that?
well, because these people still exist in that universe.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
They're still going to exist, and why? Again, why not?
Because I'll say this, because you could still do a great Star Trek with a whole different storyline that nobody's ever seen, and really, because look, you put yourself on this precipice there to leap into new uncharted territory.
I interviewed Roberto Orsi and Alex Kurtzman at the premiere for Star Trek Into Darkness in London. And when I was talking about the next movie, the third one in this universe, which would actually be Star Trek, 13?
Yes, 13. It is.
Wow, geez, lucky 13.
We have a problem.
I was telling them, I said, here you created your own timeline. You're free. And he goes, no, we're screwed. I said, no, you are free to go your own way. Make this your own.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about what happened in the Doomsday Machine or yesterday's Enterprise.
But here's what Lindelof said, one of the writers and producers. He said that because Conway had such a gravitational force in the Star Trek world, they felt like they couldn't not use him as a character. And I went, what? Are you kidding me?
I don't agree.
But that was his argument. And he said, we can't avoid it. And I went, what?
Yes, you can.
You could have. He could have just, like you said, just keep him. His name is John Harrison. We don't need.
Yeah, see, and again, I don't. Again, if you were able to accept everything that happened in the first, these people, these characters still exist within this timeline. So
these characters do,
and when you say the Doomsday Machine,
but their history doesn't.
Right. I mean,
no, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the
it does matter because the whole motivation is that what he's talking about.
It's a different motivation.
In the 2009 movie,
that's a different motivation.
There is a moment on the bridge of the Enterprise midway through the film when Spock is analyzing what's going on. He says, this Romulan ship from the future has altered our destinies. The paths we were going to take will no longer happen in this way. And I remember when I watched that for the first time, I went, whoa, wait a minute. Are you telling me that Who Mourns for Adonais and the Doomsday Machine and the Trouble with Tribbles and the Turnabout Intruder, well, actually, maybe that's a good thing that if that doesn't happen, but that this whole thing will not happen? And I went, okay. All right, this is good. You're doing your own thing. And then the next moment, Spock gets into turbolift and the Uhura starts kissing him. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, this is great. And then Vulcan just implodes. So then I think, wait a minute. If there's no Vulcan, where the hell is Spock going to go to do Pon Farr?
I
would not want to be stuck on the Starship Enterprise with that guy when he's going through Pon Farr.
Wouldn't it make a really great movie for Vulcan, for New Vulcan? If you have not only, okay, we got to get Spock's, in heat. We got to take care of them. We got to bring them to New Vulcan to go through this ritual. And as they're on their way, hey, we got not one but two Doomsday Machines.
Yeah.
What the hell? And then so now you've got a time thing. Like if you're reimagining stories, I don't mind. I mean, because like I said, all of these things still exist until they tell us they don't exist anymore. So. I don't know. It didn't bother me.
If it's out there, okay. See again,
but it also for me it brings a familiarity back into the thing.
Sure.
And,
obviously there are ups and downs to this whole thing, and I think we can agree that the biggest controversy about the movie is the fact that they brought Khan in that story.
And the bigger controversy, yes, I agree with that. The bigger one was the sort of flip, bizarro moment in engineering when Spock yells Khan.
Yeah.
I cringed.
Yeah, you cringed. Okay.
I just went, oh.
Okay, but how did the other scene work later on with the warp core scene? With the characters being flipped, with Kirk being the one in the core, and
I saw where that was going. I see that instead of Spock
did you
going
cringe
down
at
there,
that? Is my point.
I didn't cringe.
Okay.
I was like, okay, this is interesting. Okay, so Kirk is the one who sacrifices himself instead of Spock,
which is character growth at that point.
Well, that was the whole story.
For this movie,
I was with it. I was with it. I think Chris Pine's a great actor. I think he could do comedy, romance, action, and I think he's a great Kirk. But when he dies and then Spock yells Khan, and as much as I love the film,
that felt was way too much.
It was too overt.
Too overt for the character.
Too overt, and
I see what you're saying.
You cannot recreate this. You cannot recreate.
And what he's pointing to is his shirt, which is the 1982.
And I agree.
Yes. For those who are only listening and not watching, he's pointing to his shirt with Captain Kirk from 1982 saying
Khan.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Comic-Con.
Comic-Con. Yeah, exactly.
That's what he got at Comic-Con this year.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
I again, if I gave the first, the last one, the 2009 Star Trek movie, an A,
Number
I
12.
give, yes,
No, number 11,
Number
excuse me.
11, I give Star Trek Into Darkness a B plus.
Okay.
I mean, I liked it a lot. I just didn't love it as much as 2009.
Yeah.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about the heat you got?
Well, I got a lot of heat from diehard Trekkers
Right.
who thought it was blasphemous that they did the Khan
because of
story
what you
again.
said about it, right?
Yeah, and again, I mean, I wish they wouldn't have done that.
Right.
I felt like the fact that they did is fine. It still worked as a standalone movie. It didn't carry nearly as much of an emotional impact as the original, as the 1982
2009.
movie,
Okay.
or you watch Spacey where they're both young, where,
Right.
where Kirk is fighting Khan in the engineering, and
Yeah.
remember that last scene in Space Seed when he goes, I'm gonna, you're gonna take your people to study Alpha 5. Your people went on to tame a colony. Now can you tame a world? And Khan says, "Have you ever read Milton, Captain?" And Kirk goes, "Yes, I understand." And that, first of all, it's beautiful. It's poetic. It's and the beauty of Wrath of Khan is the movie is that it's Moby Dick in space. It's run silent, run deep in space. It is Shakespearean, Dickensian. The whole as best of times, it was the worst of times, and then ending it with the far better place I go to I've ever known. It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just a perfect Star Trek science fiction movie. It is a perfect film, one of the best movies ever made, period. Star Trek Into Darkness is a damn good movie. Not as good as 2009. Not as good as Wrath
and
of Khan.
I would never compare it to 2009 because it's not called The Wrath of Khan.
Right.
Like, we don't know Khan, and you're right. The history in Wrath of Khan, and then when Spock dies, it's very emotional.
Yes.
If you grew up watching Star Trek, but again, we are used to. When you say that's blasphemous and Into Darkness, I actually found it blasphemous when they blasted Vulcan out of orbit. I'm like, what the hell is going on
That was
here?
their way of
I was
saying we're doing our own thing.
I get it.
I know, but
in this,
it hit him to the core. It's like, what?
it was like, I'm like, where's a mock time going to take place?
Right,
Well, I go,
exactly.
Jane Wyman's gone. I go, in my head, like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And so that, like, to me, if I bought that, I had to buy this because, again, playing in that same sandbox, using the sand and just mucking it up and spreading it around.
So let's postulate this. So
yeah.
when they obviously,
And-
it's a no-win scenario, so to speak, on how you're going to do the next
It's
Star
like the
Trek.
Kobayashi Maru.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
absolutely.
saying. It's like
Yeah.
we're you're going to piss off some people. You know the other people are going to love it. So when you're in the writing room, let's just
they
say,
do that in the
do we do
2009
something that's been done before, or do we launch into territory that no one's ever done? Which, I mean, let's face it,
This
go
movie-
boldly go where no one has gone before.
Into Darkness fell a little too much back on the canon aspect of it with the Khan thing.
Yeah.
And even the story a little bit, with Starfleet being corrupted,
Okay.
felt a little like Star Trek 60 on Discover
felt
Country,
like-
the way they
right.
wanted the war
Okay.
to
Right.
continue with
Okay,
the Klingons.
sure.
So let's move on to another topic, which is
Yeah.
ancillary. Okay, so Benedict,
Yeah.
great Khan.
Good
I mean,
Khan.
not
Yeah, I
Ricardo,
mean,
just as this
He's
Khan.
a great villain.
Okay,
he played
great villain.
He played a great villain. He was, and again, like what I loved about Benedict in the movie was, like, is he using them or are they using
Yeah,
him?
that was great.
And just the way you could tell that he was passionate in
Right.
his endeavor and what he wanted to do. You could tell that he was really hurt. That I love the opening. The scene where that Starfleet officer has his daughter in, and he's like,
Yeah.
"I can save her."
Right.
Yeah.
And like he knew what that is, so they just added a different dimension.
Yeah,
He was a
it's
different Khan.
Absolutely.
And again, I
great.
find it very hard. Like, Wrath of Khan to me, I agree with you. It's a perfect
Yeah.
movie.
But
It's hard.
I think the thing they did best was hold it so much.
Yeah, they
You
did.
just-
Well, the thing
such
about-
a good job of that.
Yeah.
The thing about Benedict is that he's not really in the movie for that much.
No, he's
No.
not.
But you feel his
Part of that is
presence.
because of the history. Once we learn, it's oh my god.
Yeah, but the history,
yeah.
for the first hour of the film, you hardly see him.
Yeah, it's true.
But you still feel his presence, and that is a significant amount due to his talent.
absolutely.
Now, what do you guys think about the controversy about the fact that he was cast and not somebody of Indian heritage?
Well, originally they were going to cast Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
He came really close, but for whatever reason,
Yeah.
they couldn't
Yeah,
work it out. I mean, that didn't bother me either way. I mean, Khan, he should have been had that the descent in his
Yeah.
blood that he didn't. But again, like what you were saying, how this is a different con, so I just went with it.
Yeah, I mean, see, again, if they cast Benicio, who has a presence,
Right.
Yes,
and
he does.
again, you know, he has a presence, and I think that might have been too close to
Ricardo? Yeah.
And I think by going with Benedict, and you know, Benedict's, listen, he's great as Sherlock. You know, love this guy.
So do you think they go too far when they call it whitewashing because they use a white guy instead of an Indian guy?
I think,
that's a good question.
mean, you know, I didn't think about it in that way, but I could see why that would be addressed.
Well, you know, and I'm sure you guys have heard about that. Some of the producers are saying, look, we didn't think it would be fair to put an Indian or anybody who was Middle Eastern in that particular role because now they're the villain, now they're the terrorist. We didn't want to do that.
That is
so
a good
even
point.
that's very, you know.
But then there's the Kobayashi Maru thing. You know,
exactly.
you
This is
can't
my
please
point. Is like,
everybody.
and you know, going into Star Trek.
The produ- I was gonna- I
And
was
plus,
gonna-
like, what if his parents? I mean, he's an English bloke, and his parents just
know,
might have liked the name Khan.
And he's genetically engineered anyway.
He's
So
right.
I mean, listen, when you know, my the modus operandi for Paramount and the producers, with the 2009 movie and this one too, was to make Star Trek movies that would appeal beyond the fans, that would just go the first and second weekend that it opened, then it would drop off.
Right.
And they did so. The last movie made $280 million domestically, only about 110 overseas. No Star Trek movie has ever done well overseas, which is baffling to me.
This one has.
This one has. I mean, this one made less domestically, but it made more overseas. It made about $480 million worldwide
approaching
total,
500, right? Yeah,
which makes it by far the biggest grossing Star Trek
there
movie
you go.
ever.
So they obviously did something right.
So
lot of
Star
name
Trek is
recognition.
moving forward. And when I was at Comic-Con, I spoke with Simon Pegg, who plays Scotty, and Zoe Saldana, who plays Uhura. I said, you know, I heard that things might be moving a little bit faster than expected for the next Star Trek movie. And Simon Pegg actually says, yeah, it looks like we might be filming sooner than expected.
Let's talk about how that happened, the development of how it actually became, because Paramount, in 2008, Paramount had one of these guys, we're ready to go on the next one. They haven't even, you know, 2009, they hadn't even premiered, and they were already trying to ink them in.
They had such good buzz going into 2009 Star Trek.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Why did it take so long? I mean, what was the deal? I mean, what I've heard is they had a script in 2009, yet Abrams in 2011 was saying, hey, I haven't read a script yet. I don't know if I'm doing it. I'm going, what?
Well, they all got very big.
That's
and busy.
Very big and very busy.
I mean, look, you know, Simon Pegg is very busy, but I can tell you for sure that nobody wants to wait another 4 years for the Star Trek movie, especially because a Star Trek movie has to be in theaters in 2016. Why? Because it is the 50th anniversary of Star Trek.
There you go.
Just like Skyfall hit theaters on James Bond's 50th anniversary, like to the day, I believe October 1962 was when Dr. No premiered. Just that they have to have a Star Trek.
Don't you think a lot of it has to do with the fact that almost 500 million internationally?
Well,
no, and I had read that apparently Leonard Nimoy had tweeted, look for September 9th, 2015.
Oh, really?
2015 or 2016?
2000.
I don't think it'd be
50th. Yeah, he tweeted out a date.
Okay.
And it was that.
That would, well, listen, it's not going to come out in September because September is early, and most people are just going back to school after being in Labor Day. This is a movie that will open either in May or during Christmas time.
There you go.
Because the other Star Trek films, let's see, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock came out in June of those years, 82 and 84. Star Trek 4 came out in December of 1986. Star Trek V, which was horrible, came out in June of 1989.
But what does God need with a starship?
What does God need
with a starship?
If you start singing "Row, row, row your boat," this podcast is done. But, you know,
that'll be the cue.
You know what? You know what we didn't talk about in the whole Khan thing? We didn't actually talk about just the story. Just regardless of whether Connor, did we like the story that was being told here? The fact that, you know, you've got this guy. You know, well, the arc for I thought Kirk was great.
Yeah,
I
thought his arc worked. And again, you know, him dying, him doing that, it made sense in this timeline.
In this timeline,
It
exactly,
made
yeah.
sense because we always knew Kirk to be brash. You know, he never looked before he leaped, and as it
In fact, he
showed
did
the
in this scene,
he did
first scene in
one.
Nibiru.
And so,
I love that opening
Yeah,
scene.
Wasn't that
the opening
great?
scene was
Oh,
great.
just to look at it, I was like,
great.
what
That
And in 3D IMAX.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh, I thought so.
the beginning of Star Trek Into Darkness, it just like drop you right in. It felt like the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
In fact, did you? I was reading that was some sort of homage to it.
Yeah, it must have been because
Yeah.
it was so overt and
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah.
But I just love the playfulness
Yeah.
of both of these films, 2009 and Into Darkness. It was just a real fun, playful vibe, and I thought the Kirk's arc was great, and I did like the story. I just wished it would have been. It was the fact that he was Khan.
Yeah.
It was the worst kept secret.
But
Well, you know, it's great because I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the. I mean, you're right. I mean, in pre-production, it had leaked out that he was Khan, but I thought Paramount and JJ and team, I thought they did
Everybody.
a really great job.
well, here's the thing.
in deflecting.
Yeah, that and I think okay, if you could, because I try like crazy not to even hear it when it's coming out. I don't want to read anything. I just want to go into the movie and experience it as it happens.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I honestly didn't know, and I like the way they wrote it. The fact that it took forever for us to learn that, I thought was great. That they were able to withhold that information for me. I thought that was wonderful. And then when it happens, like, oh, man, I was not ready for it.
You know, I mean, anything that's Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to pay attention to.
Right.
And the word was Benedict. Is he going to play Khan? And nothing was ever confirmed. But I'll tell you how great of a job that they did, because a lot of my friends say, "Do you think he's Khan?" I'm like, I honestly don't know. Well, it's CinemaCon this past year in Las Vegas, which is a big convention for distributors and
I was
exhibitors. Damon Lindelof was at the Paramount presentation, and he showed actually 20 minutes of Star Trek. And the one scene that he showed was the space jump scene.
Yep.
Okay. They recut the space jump scene so that there was no mention, because if you remember in the movie, there's a lot of communication going on
There's
between the
also
Enterprise.
a graphic that says
It says
Kirk
Khan
and Khan.
Khan.
It said Harrison.
And they took it all out.
Yeah, they
and
recut it.
they recut it. So I saw that and I was like, oh, well
Maybe it's
done.
not
I go,
Khan.
maybe it's not Khan.
Right.
So, and
Oh,
I
I
would
see.
tell
Nice.
people, you know, I would tell people,
Nice
I don't
deflection.
know.
That's great.
And I thought they did a really good job with marketing. But that also goes to the point, too. Does social media ruin our movie experiences
Definitely.
sometimes?
I mean, I actually have
That's
gone
why
out of my way.
I'm not on social media.
I go out of my way
Yeah.
with certain films, especially if I love the characters, like Star Trek, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan too, where I will go out of my way to avoid reading what I think could potentially ruin the fun and excitement
Yeah.
of the surprise.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to take the movie as it happens.
I want to just take it as it happens. Like if there were things like on Twitter or Facebook or whatever saying, "Oh, spoiler alert about Star Trek Into Darkness," I would not read it. I wanted to be surprised.
Right.
And people would say to me, "Do you think he's Khan?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I do. I do think he's Khan." I mean, so much has been speculated and talked about at this point. If he's not Khan, I would be surprised. But I still thought it was a good moment when he's in the brig and he says, you know, my name is not John Harrison, my name is Khan. But Kirk is just going like, what the hell is a Khan?
Yeah, he doesn't
You know,
exactly.
and then,
But
and
the
then
audience
Spock
knows.
says,
It's like,
and then Spock says, remember the second movie in 1982?
Yes. That's a deleted scene. It'll be in the Blu-ray.
let's move on to the because we were just talking about cinematography and the opening sequence and all that other stuff. And I had heard that I think it was, who was it? Which one of the writers came up with the idea? They were coming up with a blockbuster summer action. What would be cool to see? What if the Enterprise came out of the ocean?
Yeah, that was
And
cool.
great
that's
scene.
what started. That's what started the whole cold open in Nibiru or whatever. And first of all, that just looked amazing.
It looked
And then you
awesome.
also had the Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, leap off.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
There was the
That was
homage to
awesome.
Raiders. There was
Yep.
Butch Cassidy. I mean, the thing flying out of the ocean is like, I'm in.
The special
Yeah.
effects were great.
They were.
I love, you know, listen, I just love seeing, just to get a little nostalgic, in the last movie, when Kirk and McCoy are taking the shuttle up to the Enterprise. You know, this is 2009. There hadn't been a Star Trek movie since 2002, Nemesis, which was bad. There hadn't been an original series movie since 1991. So here in 2009, you know, Kirk and McCoy are looking out the window, and then you see the Enterprise, and the camera pans to the primary hull where it says, USS Enterprise. And oh, did I just smile when I saw the words USS
Everybody.
Enterprise.
Same here.
We're back.
There it is.
Yeah. It's right there.
Right there.
But
Demetri
again,
shirt.
Loving it.
but I looked at that as like, well, geez, is that that's an homage for sure to the motion picture?
Right.
Right,
Because
or
when they bring the
Wrath of
motion
Khan.
picture, yeah, but the motion picture was our first foray into the movies, and I remember as a kid going to see it. Like, and people complained that maybe it was too long of a flyby, and I was like, it wasn't long
No,
enough.
exactly.
I
Again-
wanted him to go under the nacelles,
exactly.
and I wanted him like to
I'm a
figure
fan of
eight
motion
and a
picture.
ribbon.
Yeah.
Ribbon. And,
I think motion picture is an underrated movie.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the production values are still great by 1979 standards. Jerry Goldsmith's score is one
Oh,
of the greats.
it's fantastic.
It's a cerebral film. It,
That's what I was going to say about
It plays
I
like an
love the
episode.
idea of it.
It just
plays
was
like
a little.
an episode.
Yeah.
It was just a little too much like The Changeling.
Exactly.
Sure.
Too,
You
a
know,
little
it
too,
was
little
we're
too
nomad.
cerebral.
It was like that episode,
Yeah.
The Changeling from
Yeah.
the
Sure.
series. So a lot of people are calling it Where Nomad Has Gone Before.
Yeah, exactly.
I am
Nice.
perfect. Sterilize. Okay, I'm a geek.
But what did Star Trek: The Motion Picture have that both these last two Star Treks movie had to a plumb? It was Douglas Trumbull doing special effects, if I remember correctly.
Yep,
he
that's
was
right.
never afraid of lens flare.
Well, I
You
don't
know?
mind the lens flare.
No, I don't mind it either. It's
I
even in the
don't- I
video.
don't
It's
care.
even in the video game.
A lot of people thinking it's too much JJ.
I like the lens flare.
I like the lens flare.
Gives it a good look to it.
I
Yeah, I
agree.
like
It's
it.
different.
I
It looks
agree.
different
I like
from
it.
the other Star Trek
I
movies.
love it. I love
and
it.
I love the uniforms.
Oh, the uniforms.
Oh,
are-
these uniforms are great. And you know the detail on the actual Starfleet uniforms. If you look really close, there are a bunch of tiny little insignias
Yeah.
to give it this detail.
I
Yeah, if you
didn't-
look
missed
really
it.
close,
missed that.
there are a bunch of tiny little insignias. And damn, I want one of those things.
So we started with we're talking about the
Avanos.com.
cinematography by Dan Mandel. I just thought the overall look was cool.
Yeah, I
it was
liked it.
bigger, bolder.
Yeah. Listen, their goal in order to get a bigger audience that went beyond Star Trek fans was to make it a bigger movie.
Right.
And in terms of special effects and
Yeah.
action and excitement, it does indeed boldly go where no Trek had gone
It
before,
has, I mean,
and then some.
yeah.
But the problem is that as much as all that was great to
This
look
was-
at,
yeah.
it lost the magic of the last movie.
Yeah, because
I walked when the movie
you
was
got
over.
to spend time with the characters in
Right.
that one. This one we just had it was
It
kinda
was too
shoved
much action.
yeah,
They
this
tried
one.
too hard to make it bigger. And listen, again, I still like the movie a lot. I championed the film in May, and I still champion it now. It comes
I
out
think
on
they'll find a
Blu-ray.
better balance for the third one. I think
They have
they
to.
know they have. And I think
Please,
they know
God.
that they probably had to do this because that was their not caveat, but that was their goal from the beginning was make it a bigger film, and so they have to. But now they're going to go, okay, we did that. Now let's kind
I
of
want
get to
to
the
be
nutty.
surprised. I don't want to know. I don't want to suspect that anyone will be back. I don't want to see Apollo.
Tribbles.
I don't want to see the Tribbles. I don't want to see Chang.
But the Tribbles were in the first 2009 movie.
Core.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Gary Mitchell.
No, I think
none of this.
I think if I could be, but if I were them, I'd say no. That's it. All bets are
Original.
off. We're doing something we've never
do
done.
your own thing.
Exactly.
Your own thing. Go your own way.
And these guys are talented enough; they can do this. I mean, I think they should just get in there, hash it out like crazy,
I
and
say
come up with
this.
something.
I
else.
say this as a Trekker. I say this as a movie critic, as a movie lover. Don't tread on all ground. No matter how different it may look, do your own thing. You have this freedom to do that. You don't have to worry about that. Well, this happened in the original timeline, then we can't do this because this just doesn't jive with something that happened on Deep Space Nine. You don't have to worry.
No,
Sky's
I'm
the
with you, but when
limit.
you start
That's
to do
very
your
good.
own thing, then again, I think it's a double-edged sword.
Of course it is, but
because,
anything you do is gonna be a
Rob Zombie
double-edged.
did his own thing with Halloween, and that
No,
was.
but see-
but again, I don't mind if Gary Mitchell shows up. I don't care if he shows up. He doesn't just have to get the mirror eyes in that movie, but I don't mind if he shows up because he exists.
As long as he's not the story. He doesn't have to be the story.
But
Yeah, I think
no,
what we're talking
exactly,
about
See,
is-
that goes back to the core.
but
What
he
is Star Trek?
exists.
What is Star Trek?
That's what
Star
I
Trek
mean.
is about.
Yeah.
It's idealistic. I mean, the original series,
Sure,
Next
but
Gen.
you
were-
can't discount the character.
Well,
No, nobody's suggesting
It's
that. I'm
about
just suggesting
strong
I wanted
characters.
to reach beyond
You
what
want
it is.
you want a new story, and I get that, and I'm
Yeah.
all for it. But
reason-
you could have Gary Mitchell.
The reason that I've always loved Star Trek and that I've always loved the original series and Next Generation over the other shows,
Yeah.
the reason why I love Star Trek over Star Wars is because I love the characters. I wanted to be Captain Kirk when I was a kid. Honestly, I still do. I mean, what's not to love? I mean, he's a man of passion. He's a man of action. He's a cool guy. He always knows the right thing to say or do. His crew looks up to him. You know, the women love him, and he loves them back. I mean, that is the reason. Like, when people go on about Star Trek, I love it. It's a positive depiction of the future. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy.
Absolutely.
But for me, when I was a kid, he was a great role model, and he still is. And I think that that's one of the things that I love about Chris Pine's performance is he captures that bravado and that vulnerability at the same time. And because, you know, like there's that scene in Balance of Terror, the classic episode of the original series, when McCoy goes to visit Kirk in his quarters, and Kirk is like, he's like, you know, all those people on the bridge are looking up to me. What if I'm wrong? Why me? I mean, that's that sense of doubt, that Horatio Hornblower aspect of Kirk is what's made him a timeless character.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is a timeless character, but you know, he does have his character flaws, like you mentioned at the end of Space Seed, and he's done it throughout the entire episode. It's like, hey, all right, guys, go on your planet, and then he just forgets about him. Like he never goes back, and that happened in so many episodes where he'd say, all right, yeah, we'll be back, and then
remember the apple? Whatever happened to false people? They could be like savage people.
Yeah, we'll check up on you in a few years.
I have to confess that when I was in 5th grade, my 5th grade teacher asked somebody in the class to stand up and recite the opening of the Constitution. Nobody raised their hand. I raised my hand and said, I can do it. I stood up and I started saying, I didn't just say, oh, we the people of the United States. I said, we the people of the United States, and I went on. I did the whole thing to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And my teacher is like, "Wow, excellent job, young man. Where'd you learn that?" I said, Star Trek. And wait, another story. Colin Firth, I was interviewing him a few years ago for that movie, The Girl with the Pearl Earring. And at the end of the interview, he was going on about how great the story was, how much he loved the script. And I said, well, you know, the play's the thing. And he goes, you know what line comes next? And I said, wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. And he goes, oh, well done, well done. The publicist, I'm walking out, the publicist says, well played. How did you learn that? I said, Star Trek.
Wow.
Boom.
Look at you,
Take
movie
that.
Mantz. There it is.
Right.
Nice.
Kurt's the man. Come on.
I mean, he is. And, like, why wouldn't you want to be Captain Kirk? And, again, there's a difference. People, like, always break down Kirk versus Picard.
Right.
Picard, well, I'll just start off with, Picard is somebody takes over the Enterprise, and Picard's like, okay, we'll talk about it, we'll figure something out. Kirk is like, not with my ship you don't. Get out of that chair.
Okay, since we're talking about the helm, let's talk about the helm.
Not with my ship you don't.
Since we're talking about the guy that's helming the ship, let's talk about J.J. Abrams. How did he do this time?
I thought he did almost as good a job as he did the last time. Again, this is the argument I've been saying this whole time, is that it just fell short, and the effort to upstage the action came at the expense of character development and magic. But I still thought he did a fine job, and I think it's a very good film.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely learned how to film an action scene.
Yeah.
And he has this wonderkind about him. Listen, I like the way J.J. Abrams makes a movie. I think he makes them exciting. I think with Star Trek going into it, you know, from the beginning, he said, I was never a Star Trek fan. And then when he did the 2009 movie, he did, you know, a little bit of his research, but look what he pulls off as something that he never liked.
He made Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness. He brought a Star Wars sensibility to Star Trek because he was a Star Wars fan, not a Star Trek fan. So he brought that magic into Star Trek. So what a surprise, not that he's directing Star Wars Episode 7.
And his action, like, ratchets up.
Right.
Like, there's always, okay, we're running through this red forest. This creature comes up. Kirk stuns it, and he's like, that was our ride. It's like, okay,
Listen,
now what are we going to do? And
I thought the scene when the Enterprise was spiraling down to the Earth.
That was amazing.
Kirk and Scotty are running to the engineering room. I thought that was a well-staged
Okay, since we're getting in those favorite moments. Favorite scenes, whatever you want to talk about. How I loved this. First of all, I just thought the opening
space
was
jump
amazing.
scene was great.
Oh, that was great
The space
too.
jump from the Vengeance to the Enterprise.
Yeah, good stuff.
Or from the Enterprise to the Vengeance. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, the opening for me was great. I love when the Enterprise comes up out of the water.
Yeah.
That
was just cool.
Yeah,
it looks damn cool.
That was very cool.
The scenes with Simon, you know what? And then here's another thing too. I think that they gave Scotty more to do. I mean, Scotty actually
was great.
Scotty's great, but
Yeah, but
that
he's the
character
only-
stood up to the captain.
Yeah, but he
and
was the
said-
only character that really of the others exactly that really got a
non-big
chance to do something. And of course, they needed that because
Well,
get him off the
but
ship so
see,
we can have him go help us.
Right, later on.
Exactly.
See, I would again, you know.
Anybody have any problems with Kirk making basically a cell call from wherever they are in the deep dark
across
space
the galaxy
to a bar?
Listen, there are
A lot of
things that
cell
happen
towers
like that,
in space.
Things like that.
And then he's on a transport in Saturn like that.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, listen, there are things like
Yeah.
that. Listen, if you really want to nitpick, you could tear apart both movies. I mean,
Absolutely,
how
you
the
could.
hell did Kirk go from being a cadet to the captain?
Yeah, I know.
In the space of one movie. I
Exactly.
mean, let's be
Amazing,
real here.
amazing, I know.
Because
you
he's
just,
Captain
you gotta
Kirk.
let that go, but because he's Captain
He's
Kirk.
Captain
And you
Kirk.
want to get him in the
You
chair.
just said it.
I love that scene
carries
wait,
you
in the 2009 movie when they're on the bridge and they're all trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And Kirk is in the captain's chair and Spock goes up from the chair. That was great. I love that. That was awesome.
Yeah, and
Anything else from this one about the thing that you liked? Because
You know,
I have to say,
I
I love Spock getting into it with Khan. I thought that was great.
Yeah. That was great.
Well,
Spock
that
kicks ass.
actually, the crash of the what was the name of that ship? Khan's ship.
Oh, the Vengeance.
The
Vengeance,
Vengeance, when
yeah.
that thing like
Oh, yeah.
levels San Francisco,
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
like that was great. And then the
Spectacular.
chase scene
Then
that
just jumps
that
out the
follows
window.
it, yeah, the chase
Exactly.
scene that happens after. Well, he's genetically
Well, he is
engineered.
exactly. He's genetically.
You know, I'll buy that.
The-
But that chase scene,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
great.
It
It
was
was
a
a
lot of fun.
lot of fun to see.
The problem with the end of the film, with the end of Into Darkness, is that the movie doesn't really slow down. It becomes a little exhausting after a while. Like if you want to look at a great example of a sequel that knows when to run or knows when to stop, because it is a marathon to watching a movie, is The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
You know, you had the first 40 minutes with the battle on Hoth and the chase through the asteroid field, and then, you know, Luke slows down on Dagobah and Han and Leia slow down on the asteroid. Then it picks up again on Cloud
these
City.
moments of
Right, you got to slow down and catch your breath. And Star Trek Into Darkness didn't really do that. It was one thing after another, went by very fast. So when you get to that big scene where Spock is fighting Khan at the end, and it's just like, whew,
You need a little
you
libretto
need a
with
little
your
bit of a
legato.
break. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, and then Man of Steel came out, and
Man of
talk
Steel
about
was horrible.
exhausting.
I hated that movie. Boy, did I hate that
But
movie.
again, like I thought that final chase scene was great. It was a great action set piece, and again, it brings something to Star Trek that Star Trek, the original
Yeah.
movies, were never so much about the set
No.
pieces. They had them,
Yeah.
but they weren't necessarily about them.
Right.
I just love that you got to see Spock kicking ass.
Yeah, that was
Spock,
great.
yeah, you never
And
really
he
get to
does
see Spock kick ass.
Yeah,
it
and
was
so
great.
that's what I like about the 2009 movie
Yeah.
and this movie.
When he beats up the kids.
Well, that was a great scene
Yeah, it
too. But you know, I mean, I like the fact that there is a sense of action throughout these movies, and that you can actually go, woo, wow,
Okay,
that was.
Speaking of that, the scene with Alice Eve.
Okay, yeah, a little gratuitous, but yeah.
Yeah,
Phew.
what?
Yeah.
But
You
and
had
that was
no
a
problem?
character
No
that
problem.
that there was a character had it not been for her name, and only the
was
Trekkers
like-
really knew who she was.
Exactly.
There was really no real purpose for
I
her.
have to say, when it
exist.
happened, the scene in the underwear, I'm going, what?
Why did he just do
And then,
that?
you know, because I'm going, okay, well, they're going to pay that off somehow, and it just was nothing. Just
But you
gone.
had no
Just-
problem with Kirk being in bed with two women
See, I love that.
and a tail,
I love
but
that.
Alice Eve in her
I love
underwear,
that.
No, it's
people
just
were
I'm
like,
going,
I thought
wow,
that was
it's
funny. He wakes up, he's
expletive. Yeah.
in bed, he thinks it's with one woman, then there's another woman in
I'm just
there.
saying, if you're going to do it, I would play the thing out. I mean, I'm not particularly that
Well-
scene, but have some sort of repercussion, some sort of meaning. I was just like, what
I
was
will
the
point
point?
out that JJ rebuffed that greatly on the talk shows when he said, "Well, here's a scene that we cut out.
Yeah, I know, I
Here's,
saw
here's
that,
for
yeah.
you," and it was Benedict Cumberbatch
in a
taking a
shower
shower. I'm like, "Well played, JJ. That's
Well, I
really
mean,
funny."
the reason why
So,
the reason
yeah.
why I bring it up is because of the whole not controversy, but the scuttlebutt about how they didn't
Women
write
characters.
strong women characters in this particular scene, and not only did they not do that, then they had this scene which like went nowhere, and it was just skin for
yeah,
skin.
it just felt gratuitous.
And
it
I
was
just went,
not
why? And you didn't
necessary.
need it. It was like if you
Yeah.
take that out, that doesn't
you know,
hurt the movie.
I agree.
I needed it.
I agree.
It doesn't hurt the movie.
I mean,
at
there was
all.
needed
nothing
it.
wrong
It
with
was
seeing
fine.
it, but,
No.
but structurally in the film, there was no
Yeah,
purpose
there's no
to it.
exactly. It doesn't fulfill any arc. It doesn't fill any
Yeah.
plot point. It was just
Why? You think Kirk really wouldn't take a peek? He wouldn't
Well,
take.
it's not that he wouldn't.
that he
Why
wouldn't,
would she undress in front of him?
yeah, that way, and then not to use it
'cause
as a
they had to
character beat for her. I mean, it was just like whatever.
It
And
just
as
wasn't
and-
necessary.
And,
I mean,
and believe me, I'm not
I'm
opposed to
I'm
looking
with
at
you. I'm with you on this.
So,
Yep.
all right,
I
so
had no problem.
let's get into where does it rank in the
Okay, well,
hierarchy.
let's rank the Star Trek movies here. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with 2.
And you can do,
obviously
let's do our
first.
top 4 or whatever, because I don't know if we have. Oh no, go ahead. Just do whatever you
Okay,
want.
I'm just going to say 2,
Okay.
4, 2009, and 6.
I am right with you.
Yep.
Absolutely right with you.
2, 4, 2009, and 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna get definitely with 2, Undiscovered Country. I would go with definitely Star Trek 2009, and you said 2006.
No, I said
2
Star Trek
or
2.
Star Trek 6.
Number 1 is Star Trek 2. Number
Right.
2 is Star Trek 4. Number 3 is Star Trek 2009, and number 4 is Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm
Undiscovered
flip flopping. I'm gonna go 2, Undiscovered Country, then go to 4, and then 2000.
And having said that, I thought First Contact would be number 5.
Yeah.
Number
First
5. First
Contact.
Contact.
Yeah, First Contact is very
I have
well
to say
done.
the one that disappointed me. That didn't. I shouldn't say that. But let's talk motion picture a little bit more, because every time I think about the story and the fact that the way I just going, man, that was beautiful.
Yeah, I
and
think
they
it's a great movie.
but they didn't execute it well.
It
It's a
just wasn't
great
what
story.
people expected. Not only because they were expecting more of the characters they loved in the
Right,
original
and
series.
then they had these other people involved in it.
But it was also the studio, and a lot of people were expecting Star Trek's version of Star Wars, and that's not what it
Right,
was.
yeah.
Now, a lot of people, when you watch Star Trek: The Motion Picture, it's hard to see Kirk sort of being not a very cool person, and you don't
Yeah,
know what
it's difficult.
Spock's motive is, but if you look at the chronology, it makes sense that the characters were this way, because Kirk pulls pardon my French, he pulls a dick move to get the Enterprise back from Decker.
That's right.
Okay, Spock is now in the Enterprise. Everyone's happy except Spock. Spock has his own agenda. So McCoy is wondering if Spock is going to put his own motives before that of the Enterprise, even though Kirk is like, I could never expect that of him. So even though these were not the characters that were all that familiar after the 3 seasons of the original series, it made sense for the purposes of that film. But then 3 years later, they made up for it big
Absolutely.
time.
Killed it.
There is so much confidence
Yeah.
and irresistible swagger to Star Trek 2. The action, the brilliance, the characters, the sacrifice that Spock makes to save the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then in Star Trek 3, the Enterprise returns the favor, dying to save Spock.
Nice.
How do you
Sure.
like that?
Way to
But
go.
I will say though, again, when we talk about spoilers, back at Wrath of Khan, it was rumored.
But the brilliance of Wrath of Khan is
Well, I'm
that
just
in the
saying,
beginning of
it
the
was
movie,
rumored that Spock was going to die in that
Right,
movie
but then
before that movie came out.
But then you see the film, and the opening scene, you don't realize it's the Kobayashi Maru.
Right.
The Klingons attack the Enterprise, quote unquote, the Enterprise. Spock dies, quote unquote, dies. And then the door opens. There's Kirk
that's-
saying,
yeah.
Klingons don't take prisoners. Spock opens his eyes, and people are like, oh, maybe he
so
doesn't
he
die.
died.
Da, da, da.
Hey, you know what I forgot to hold you to is, where does this Into Darkness rank? We ranked our top 4, but where does this rank?
I would say it's maybe like 6 or 7.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I would put it out of the, let's see, I got Wrath of Khan as number 1.
Yeah.
I would go with Undiscovered Country, Voyage Home, 2009. I would go First Contact, and I would probably put this after First
Okay,
Contact.
so there you go.
I think I actually would put, I have a real soft spot for Star Trek 3.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, at the end of Wrath of Khan, everybody was feeling rejuvenated by the sight of the Genesis
Sure,
planet.
right.
Kirk is going, I feel young. So when Star Trek 3 starts and they're all so depressed,
Yeah.
it didn't really fit.
Yeah.
When did everybody just get suddenly so depressed? It just hit them that Spock had died? Okay, I'll buy that. But Star Trek 3 has great moments. I love the scene when they steal the Enterprise.
Yeah, and don't
That is
forget
a
those
great scene.
Star Trek 3,
when it's,
though.
And now, sir, the door, Scotty. Sir, I'm working on it. And then just when the doors open and Sulu goes, we have cleared space doors. Da, 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 da.
Okay, you just did it.
Yeah,
So that's it. We got to go to music then. So what
Yeah.
do we think of the score? From
the score was great.
Into
score was
Darkness.
great.
Do we like it? Did we see the next John Williams? What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely an heir apparent. I mean, we already know that John Williams said he would do the next Star Wars movies, but I thought it would have been a logical choice for Michael Giacchino. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Giacchino,
to work with Abrams in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But who's not fine with John Williams doing it. But he's a good composer.
Michael
My only
Giacchino,
complaint about the soundtrack is
What's
if
that?
you buy the soundtrack, it's not the full soundtrack in the
That's
movie.
coming. You know that's coming. I'm sure Intrada or La La Land Records will put out something.
I thought it was it was great.
It's a good
I
score.
love the
The
score.
2009 score is great too.
Absolutely.
Both scores are great, and at a time when so many composers are forgetting to really put a theme to their scores.
Yes, it drives me crazy.
I have to say, Danny Elfman blew it by not creating a good theme for Spider-Man in any of those 3 movies. So I thought Michael Giacchino did a great job of setting up his own theme for Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't. It gives you something, a through line. It helps you with everything.
and it's a
where
John
the hell
Williams
was the theme
staple,
from
too.
Man of Steel?
Yeah.
Man of Steel, I hated that. I could just go on a whole other hour.
Don't go there.
I hated that movie.
But speaking of
Good
which, I don't know
God.
if we have much time left here. So let's see. What else can we talk about other than what your hopes are?
Top 3 favorite episodes.
There you go.
Not
All right.
best.
Okay.
Not best.
Favorite? No, I know.
Favorites.
You know,
Personal favorites.
I definitely am going to go
Completely
with
subjective.
Yes.
completely subjective.
favorite
For
episodes.
me, it would be the Doomsday Machine #1.
Okay.
I do love Trouble with the Tribbles because it's just hysterical.
It's fun.
I mean,
It's
it's a
fun.
fun, but
And Kirk is funny.
Kirk
Shatner's
is funny.
So such a departure.
Yeah.
And the Quattrotriticale, and of course you would know.
It's sweet, so what?
But it's a comedy. And,
Okay, and third?
And the third for me would be, Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror is great.
Love
See,
Balance
in
of
terms of the
Terror.
best episodes, yes, Sitting on the Edge of Forever, Mirror Mirror and Doomsday Machine, Balance of Terror, Mock Time, those are the top 5 best. Personally, because for more sentimental reasons, my personal favorite is actually Metamorphosis. Because after Sitting on the Edge of Forever, you will not find a deeper, more effective love story, an unexpected love story than Metamorphosis. Because for the first half of that episode, everyone thinks that this alien force is keeping them prisoner, and no one knows what it is. The minute they hear that the companion's voice is a female, that changes the stakes of the entire episode, and it turns into a sensitive, beautifully told love story. And George Duning's musical score is one of the greats. My second favorite is actually The Conscience of the King, because it is a brilliant Shakespearean tragedy that uses Shakespeare as part of the story, and Kirk is Hamlet. He knows that Kodos is that the Caridian is Kodos the executioner, but he doesn't take action, just like Hamlet did not take action until later. And third, just because I'm a big Kirk fan, I'm a big fan of The Enemy Within. I think that Shatner's performances in that episode are fantastic.
Good one.
Wow.
Nobody said Arena.
That is, I think
Arena's
that's the
good.
final word. I don't know if we have any. Okay, any last words
What's
about
yours?
it? Oh,
Do you have one?
You guys, if I actually remember the names, I would be wearing a shirt. I don't. Because I don't feel like I qualify because I just don't have the names.
You didn't like the
I
apple?
like the one. I don't even remember the Shakespeare one. I remembered as the
Conscience of
Shakespeare
the
one.
King. Yep, it's brilliant.
Because I don't have the
brilliant.
things like that.
Yeah.
on it. But anyway, I thank you so much for all your thoughts.
it's great
It's
being
great
here,
to be here,
It's
man.
been a
This is a lot of
fabulous-
fun. A lot of
it was
fun.
nice
Yep.
meeting you.
Nice
Okay,
meeting you too.
so
Do this again.
Let everybody know where they can find you or where they
Here,
can tweet at you.
AfterBuzz,
Okay.
I don't have a
Obviously,
tweet or-
Movie Mantz, where can they find you?
Okay, you can find my stuff on accesshollywood.com. I also have my own website at moviemantz.com. It's M-A-N-T-Z. Follow me on Twitter at moviemantz, M-A-N-T-Z. And there you have it.
There you go. And the only place you can find me is at serialbuddies.com. Go look at that.
ZeroBuddies.com.
That's right.
Awesome.
So for everybody here at AfterBuzz After Show and After Movie, we want to thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Next time.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff. We would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.